Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Stiff Upper Lip podcast. We are rolling through this NFL season. Throughout today, we'll have a certain Max Saito joining us. But for now, I'm joined by my absolutely wonderful, beautiful human being, friend, compadre, co-host, Edward Watkins. How are you doing?
I am. I tell you what, any sort of rustiness that I had has been swept away by that.
I know how to get. I know how to get the troops firing on all cylinders. We are.
Yeah.
Oh, what it means to not have to have watched the Steelers this Sunday because we were on bye. I'm coming in fresh as daisies this this fine week. 6 teams were on bye. So we have a fair few games to crack on with, but where better place to start than on Thursday Night Football, where the Philadelphia Eagles remained unbeaten for a franchise record 8 wins in a row. 29-17 winners in Houston. It started out a little bit more choppy for them than I think they were expecting, as Davis Mills put in an absolutely wonderful drive right out the gate, but the might of the Eagles overpowered this pretty devoid of confidence Houston Texans, and they just ran away with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, running is the key word for the game because I mean the Eagles ran all over the Texans, but to a degree the Texans ran all over the Eagles. I think it's hard, but I feel like the Texans may have given us a slight blueprint of how to beat the Eagles, and it's to commit to the run even more than the Eagles do.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. It definitely helps having someone like Dameon Pierce at your disposal. When you factor in who who can run the ball well in this Texans team, it is Dameon Pierce, to the point where it takes all of the sort of weight off of Davis Mills' shoulders. He's had a bit of a rough year this year. Definitely showing his second year slump, or sophomore slump, I think is the more apt term for it. And yeah, they did at least put up a fight, which maybe on another day might have resulted in an Eagles loss. But at the moment, the shortbread of the NFC and maybe even the NFL rolled on. I can't believe that the Eagles, been in business since 1933, had never won 8 games in a row to start the season. 8-0.
It must be a lovely feeling. How he's got them like bristling with weapons. Every week, the supporting cast around Jalen Hurts make him look like an MVP. He's playing better football than I ever anticipated he would reach. The defense is holding up their side of the bargain. It's quite the air show, isn't it? Well, I mean, air, land, and sea. It's
yeah.
It's quite destabilizing to watch the Eagles, because then you have to look at all the other teams and be like, well, that's just not as good.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
We'll have to see how they fare in some of their other games. I think that the toughest opposition based on record that they've faced was the Minnesota Vikings so far, which no mean feat. The Vikings are 6-2, 7-1. So
7-1.
There you go. No mean feat for that to be the best record that you've played. But some people, not myself, I personally like to say that you can only beat who you play against and who you're scheduled to face, are saying that the Eagles maybe have had an easier time of it on the schedule wise, and that might be playing into it. I think that's bollocks. I think that they've just been a really good team.
They have been a really good team, and the other counter argument is that most teams this year are quite bad.
Yeah, that is entirely true. Like, every
all the
team,
good teams have soft schedules.
Yeah, and they did beat the Cowboys, although that was the Cooper Rush Cowboys. So we'll see. They have a trickier test against. Oh no, they don't. Oh, they really don't. Not until 4th of December against the Titans because they've got the Commanders, Colts, and Packers. Oh, we forgot to lead off the show with some news. Speaking of the Indianapolis Colts, who fired 2-year, 3-year head coach Frank Reich and replaced him with former center. Is he in the Hall of Fame or is he like on the outskirts?
He's in the Colts Ring of Honor.
That's it. But I think that there was talks that he could be voted into the Hall of Fame. Jeff Saturday, which begs the question, why, really?
Well, it's Matt Canada all over again. You don't play NFL games on a Saturday, so it's a terrible decision. They should have got in Jeff Sunday.
Brilliant. Yep. Fair thoughts.
No, on a serious note, though, like, it does sort of... Considering the people they have in the building, like, they've got John Fox there, like, there's a couple of other big names, and then when you consider the fact that they have to vet minority candidates as well, according to the Rooney Rule, it seems to be a decision that is knee-jerk at best and completely, I don't know, what's the word, like, completely totalitarian at worst. Like, to pass up on more qualified, better candidates, it screams of a team who want to lose their final games.
Yeah,
And,
it definitely it has an air of we're gonna lose now about it. Starting Sam Ehlinger, I know that Matt Ryan hadn't worked. He definitely did need to be benched. But they do have a more experienced NFL-ready quarterback waiting in the wings for if Matt Ryan was needed, in Nick Foles, who has proven that he is at least a competent, like, replacement-level player. Sam Ehlinger has not looked good. He had a great throw last week, and I sort of made a point about, he was dropping a few dimes to Alec Pierce, but realistically, his play in this game against the Patriots was atrocious. We probably won't cover the game in total. It's more, every decision about the Colts right now smacks of desperation, and it kind of just stinks, to be honest. So yeah, Jim Irsay was saying some really weird crap in his comments as well. He kept making a point about how they were in like the upper quadrant of NFL wins, and he was saying, they're like a top 4 team over the last 10 years for wins, which when you look at it, it wasn't even right. He was just speaking bullshit at that point. Maybe they'll type up another banner for him to hang up over in fucking Lucas Oil Stadium. Another meaningless banner. But yeah, Jim Irsay, there was a lot of talk about like the old Colts. Obviously, his dad was the owner of the Colts at that time, and he was sort of running it a little bit like it was his own personal toy. A little bit Jerry Jones-esque, but back in the bygone era. Jim Irsay, when he took over as owner of the Colts, said that he didn't want to be like his dad. He is morphing into it a little bit with everything that's happening over the last few years.
Yeah, it's been an up and down week, or a couple of weeks for Jim Irsay, because like everyone was like, "Oh yeah, this guy's finally said how everyone's feeling about Dan Snyder," and they got points for that. And then immediately it was like, "Actually, I'm going to torpedo my team, hire someone completely unqualified, and not approach any minority candidates for this role." And we've sort of gone, ugh.
I saw a headline, and obviously then proceeded to read the headline from SB Nation talking about how the Colts had won the Super Bowl of nepotism with the Jeff Saturday pick, which I really, I must admit it was quite the read. If you can go hunt it out, I recommend it. But yeah,
and if you're listening, SB Nation,
we love you.
Hello.
Hire us. Gladly. All right, let's turn our attention then to Sunday Night Football, which followed on the theme of the rest of the Sunday games and went right down to the wire with a 20-17 win for one team in particular, as the Kansas City Chiefs fought off a very powerful Tennessee Titans performance by beating them 20-17 with a bit of Mahomes magic right at the end to seal it, running the majority of the yards on that final drive. Just an incredibly clutch quarterback, and proving that he can do it with his legs as well in overtime, get to overtime and then winning it in overtime. Yeah, it checks out.
Well, I mean, it speaks to the resilience of Mahomes and of Andy Reid that they won't be quiet for a whole game. You know what I'm saying? Like, they will still find a way to put points on you if they're in the game late. They will still find a way to beat you. And I mean, the Titans have been like the Chiefs' kryptonite for the past couple of years, haven't they? Because of their notion that in order to beat the Chiefs, you just can't give Patrick Mahomes the ball. And you know, maybe we should all be doing that.
Yeah.
But
easier said than done.
You know, easier said than done, especially when you're playing a guy who is not NFL ready in Malik Willis.
I've not seen a sort of more jarring comparison in terms of passing yards than Malik Willis's 80 yards on 16 attempts, 5 completions, than Patrick Mahomes' 68 attempts, 43 completions, and 446 yards. It truly is something. He got banged by an interception, which I think was just like a sort of weird concentration moment. It seemed like there was a lack of communication between him and Kelsey, in a sort of rare moment that happens. But other than that, the Tennessee defense just played not to give up the big play, and it worked. It's why we've been seeing weird, low-scoring games almost for large parts of this season. Is the fact that teams are playing with the too high deep safety and they're limiting the big splash play for the most part, and it's working against teams like the Chiefs. But even still, you can't hold them down forever. So I don't even feel like the Titans look any weaker, in my opinion, for having lost this. It's sort of one of those old wrestling tropes of you got to make the guy that's about to eat the pin look as strong as possible, but then the might of the champion comes out on top anyway. And
and there was a false finish or two in this one. My favorite moment of this game. I like weird little stuff, right? And so obviously Derrick Henry is number 22, and then Juan Thornhill for the Chiefs is 22. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? And there's a moment where they're on the goal line, and Derrick Henry gets the handoff and just completely like clatters through him, and I'm just like, that was a 22 off, and Henry won.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, just weird little moments like that. It's it's good to see.
It's nice that two players wearing 22 can hit each other, isn't it?
It sure is, Ed. It sure is. Yeah. I'm gonna give a little bit of credit, by the way, to a guy that I absolutely adore, and it's Juju Smith-Schuster, who's really showing out at the moment as Patrick Mahomes' like second favourite target right now. 10 catches, 88 yards. He's doing all of that dirty work underneath. If Kelsey's covered, it's nice to see him getting back to a properly high level again, because I've thought of him as being a really talented wide receiver for quite some time. It's good to see him back. It's good, real good.
Yeah, I mean the whole party's playing well, aren't they? Like Hardman is sort of doing the Tyreek role, but not getting the Tyreek receptions because they're kind of spreading it out a little bit more. Yeah, it's just Andy Reid working his magic, and then Patrick Mahomes slicing and dicing teams, really.
For sure, absolutely. Also, a nice one for Kadarius Toney getting out there and catching a pass on what felt like the first or second play of the whole game. Just to really welcome him into the Arrowhead crowd. He obviously has struggled to get game time in New York because he's just not been healthy. So it's quite nice to see in a new area. There you go. Ed's inverted commaing the
he's not been healthy because he seems like pretty alright now. He's rocked up in a different environment. So.
Yeah. It's true. but we'll have to keep an eye on that, see whether or not he was in fact just pulling a sickie for large parts of his Giants career. All right, moving on then to the final of the primetime games, where the Ravens went into the Superdome, or the Little Caesars Superdome, as you like to put it as, and beat the brakes off the New Orleans Saints. I had a real moment with this game on Sunday. In fact, it wasn't even Monday.
Yes, it was Monday Night Football.
It was, yeah. No, I mean, like, on Monday, I messaged into the group chat, and in our little predictions thing, I could have easily won the league for the week, and beaten Max. We all picked the same games for the final two, the Sunday night and Monday night games, and then just randomly, I got this little hunch to pick a spring onion of a game and think, I'm gonna take a gamble here on the New Orleans Saints, who then proceeded to get skull fucked by the Ravens all over. It was dreadful imagery for a dreadful performance, if I'm being honest. The Saints could not move the ball, except when they did, on the weirdest touchdown that I think I've seen in quite some time, when Juwan Johnson just got left open by Chuck Clark and taken in for a score. It wasn't as close as 27-13, though.
No, and it wasn't academy viewing, was it? It was just one team turned up on the day, and they were handsomely better, which of course is always nice for me when it's the Saints getting shellacked. But like, it's yet another team in the AFC now, which are sort of saying, "Hold on, like, we're playoff contenders here," and yet another team in the NFC shriveling up, but may still make the playoffs. Did you know everyone in the NFC South has a negative record?
They have for a while, right? Am I right in thinking that it's been like 3 weeks now that everyone?
That doesn't surprise me.
I've just realised that the outro music just started playing then. My bad. I fat fingered the mute mic button.
Jesus Christ, I know I'm late. I didn't realise I was that late.
What do you mean? Oh.
Just play this man out immediately.
Yeah. How you doing, Max?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Nice to see you fellas. How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty peachy, thank you, my friend. How are you?
Oh, you know. Yeah, it's fine. I don't not from an NFL perspective, but life is going all right.
Nice. Well, at least I'm
glad to hear it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're doing all right outside of.
Yeah, sadly for me, ball is life.
Yeah.
Shall we hard pivot to this? The rest of this episode be about Max's life.
It all began one fateful day in early March of 1995. A simple time before the concussion was invented.
Jesus Christ. Oh, ouch. Max, do you have anything about the Ravens and Saints game?
Not really. I mean, yes, this sums up how things are going. I think the Ravens are a good team. They had that obviously streak of bottling every game they played in hilarious fashion. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to be there or thereabouts in the AFC picture. Probably, an AFC Championship contender type team. They'd probably be the 1 or 2 or 3 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
And the Saints just, they came out and crushed the Raiders, then immediately lie down. That's some strange stuff going on this year.
Funny that the Saints absolutely obliterated the Raiders, shut them all down the week that Sean Payton was in the building, and then all of a sudden they're back to being completely moribund. So, just one to watch. One to watch.
But they said they wanted to win that game against the Raiders as a Dennis Allen revenge game, because Dennis Allen famously was an awful head coach of the Raiders some other decade other than this one. And
who hasn't
got
been
sacked
at this point?
Exactly.
Yeah, any players involved still in the Dennis Allen era now at the Saints or the Raiders?
All right.
Yeah.
Ed, do you have anything else about the Saints Ravens?
A quick note on the Saints that it's not getting any better anytime soon because Philly have their first round of it.
Ouch. Yeah, that's a way to lose it in a big spot, Saints. Way to lose it. All right, let's get our attention then into the regular Sunday slate of games, where I'm actually going to start for the first time this season with the Chicago Bears game, where they did in fact lose this one 35-32 against the Miami Dolphins. But the Bears had the best offense in the NFC North for what feels like the first time in about 7 years. Way to go. Justin Fields had an absolute day and a half. I do want to just quickly quell everybody's expectations about Justin Fields for the rest of the season, though. I feel like
don't do it to me.
We all bought a little. I think
We
myself
all
included.
did.
We've all, not you, Max, but everybody else just bought a little bit into the, like, he's had 2 amazing games. Here we go. He's going to be a great. He was arguably the worst starter in the league at the beginning of the season. I believe in him, but let's hang fire on him being put into the MVP conversation, which weirdly I've seen already so far.
What?
Yep.
From who?
I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was like
Colin Cowherd's drunken journal.
I don't think it was Coward. I think it was probably just some other talking head like Max Kellerman or some shit. But
we all know Cowherd and Kellerman wouldn't be putting Justin Fields at the top of the list.
That's true. But
I think you guys can call. We can call one of, if we had like a special end of seasons awards, I think you could call one of them right here. This is the moral victory of the season. And it's, like it's weird, right? Because the Bears had like a moral, not victory, but like a moral loss last year. Whereas like last week, I was like, oh, the offense looks pretty good. I mean, they did lose by 20 points. And then this week, they only lost by 3 against the Dolphins team who they couldn't really stop, but they went toe to toe. And does anyone know what's going on? Because they went from.
Well, it's crazy, isn't it?
They had that like 7. What was that Commanders game? It was like 7-3 or something.
Well, this is
the one
thing.
that ended with the Bears getting blocked on the goal line, and then all of a sudden it's like they're the Lions, but the early season Lions.
20 games and 2 administrations and sort of like, and then you suddenly unlock Justin Fields by going, actually he can run. Like, your self-scouting department has to be in real trouble, because at the start of the year he was just a handoff machine, and now they are using the threat of the run to create space for the pass, and like they're finally playing to his strengths, right?
Yeah, and it worked as well, because they I think that the run, the sort of 61-yard touchdown run, where it seemed like he was in the hands of about 4 Dolphins.
I think it's in the hands of God guiding him through the field.
Cradled. Like Moses parting the TLC.
No, but it was. It looked. There was a while where it looked like a kickoff return.
Yeah, he genuinely. I've never seen a guy find a seam that efficiently, that quickly, on a non-designed quarterback run. It was just a scramble drill, and he went 61 yards with it.
Anytime you can draft Dante Hall as your first round quarterback, that's not a bad selection. No, I don't know. Do you think? Do you guys think this is like a sustainable form of offense, or do you think it's just they changed it up the last 2 weeks, and then maybe by the end of the year, although it's probably playing to your quarterback strengths is never exactly going to be a bad thing. I don't expect them to be the miserable offense that they were at the start of the year. I don't think they'd ever regress that much. But do you guys think that maybe defensive coordinators will be like, oh, I see what, I think defensive coordinators in this league at the moment have a lot of experience, if not proficiency, experience with dealing with this sort of run to set up the pass attack. And I just wonder whether
he'll probably start getting played a lot like how teams are playing Kyler Murray now, in the sense of they'll put a spy on him constantly. They'll contain the pocket instead of rushing the pocket, which will open up the actual passing game, I think, a little bit more. But problem then
That's not his
becomes
strength.
yeah, it is. It then becomes the problem again of getting Fields to throw more. Which I mean, he threw for three touchdowns in this game.
He's a better runner than Kyler Murray by far.
Yeah,
he's not as good as Lamar Jackson.
He's more like Cam, really.
A little bit.
Like, that's the profile.
Would you have, if you had to rank, like, just to take an aside, if you had to win, play, show the top 3 rushing quarterbacks in the NFL right now, would you have Fields second or third and Hurts and Lamar maybe 1 and 2? Or Lamar 1 and Hurts 2?
I think I'd have Lamar 1, and then just for longevity I'd have Hurts 2, because he's done it more consistently over the first, like,
Lamar
8
is a
weeks
different
of the season, whereas
Lamar's a different kind of, like, guy. He's not.
Yeah.
I feel like Jalen Hurts is like, if you had, they're not built the same, but he's kind of like if you had the most upgraded premium version of Marcus Mariota possible. That would kind of be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Whereas
So
Lamar
poor man's-
Jackson's
poor man's Randall Cunningham.
yeah, all right. He's like Lamar Jackson's like an upgraded Michael Vick.
Yeah.
You know, they're different kinds of
And
cat.
Justin Fields is just like Cordell Stewart, but in the era that supports his play more often. That's legitimately like
I think he's got a better arm than Cordell.
But has he though? He only threw 123 yards here.
The man's just Fran Tarkenton with gold leaf.
But the thing is like if they can get it to actually work, then that's fine. It's just, can they sustain it? I'd be interested. I'm at least excited to see how the Bears do on offense now.
I think realistically they'll be better. Like they won't be like an abysmal league worst offense. But I don't know if they'll go up and down the field like they did against the Dolphins.
What you have to remember, the Dolphins though, they're one of the teams that rely most on like blitzing to generate pressure because they don't generate a lot.
Yeah,
and so
that's why they brought in Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
And Bradley Chubb did absolutely nothing on that game. Do you see they had him on special teams?
Yeah,
they had him on special teams.
Yeah,
that's a fucking expensive up back.
especially with how injury prone he is. I feel like McDaniel keeps forgetting just how breakable some of his players are.
I don't think that probably wasn't McDaniel. McDaniel was probably like, hey, who's that guy out there on special teams?
Yeah.
He goes there with the special
What?
teams. Who is that? Is he new?
Oh, that Chubb guy's putting in a lot of work on special teams. Oh no!
Wait, no, he's not.
Yeah, because funnily enough, I played my fantasy league this week. I was matched up against him, and he got 1 point.
Not bad. More than none.
For the one assisted tackle that he had.
Do you think if you're a Bears fan, like Emma's not jaded like some of us. Emma's really optimistic. She's very happy. But if you're like a jaded Bears fan, do you think you're like, wish we hadn't traded away all those defensive players?
Well, this is what I'm thinking. I think with Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, I think they win this game. They literally traded away the pieces that were there. And it's not like Chase Claypool, he had 2 catches and 1 run for 4 yards. So, like, all of their trades lost them this game, basically.
No, I think that maybe the Claypool thing is he's not TJ Hawkinson. You can't teach him the whole playbook in 4 days.
Well, no, I just meant it as in like everything that they did in the deadline actively hindered it because Claypool just wasn't ready enough to play more than like 4 snaps, basically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kevin O'Connell. Best thing you can say about the guy, he's got a really simple playbook. You can learn it in 35 minutes.
Oh. All right, we may as well turn our attention then to the Minnesota Vikings, 7-1. The best way that I can describe this is you like that, where the Commanders fans at FedEx Field started a "You like that" chant at Kirk Cousins when the Commanders
and then he scored 13 unanswered points and won the game.
Oh. Just brilliant. I love it when stuff like that happens. They had a Heineke chant, and then he threw a almost game-sealing pick It just
absolutely backbreaking pick.
yeah, it just all went wrong for the crowd at FedEx Field. I'm so sorry.
No, you can't bring them down at the moment though, because Dan Snyder's probably going to sell the team.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they're
untouchable at the moment. They're the happiest fan base in the league.
I was about to say, if they lost every game from now until the end of the year, I think that Dan Snyder might get less value for the team. I think they're actively hoping that they do at this point.
Oh, I don't know. They've lost a lot of games, and it hasn't stopped the team being as valuable as it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actual takes from this game. They didn't score as many. I know. They didn't score as many points as like other games, but that might be the best Kirk Cousins game as a Viking that I've seen. Like, because he was just getting battered. Like, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen were just like destroying the interior of that O line, and he was standing in.
That sounds familiar to me.
Yes, it sounds very familiar to me as well. And he was standing in there and making plays, including that absolute dime to Cook on the sort of touchdown that drew everyone level. And I think that just the resiliency to stand there and take the battering that he took. He only took 2 sacks, but he got 13 QB hits in addition to those sacks.
Ouch.
And I know, he's got to be sore. But he'll be alright because he's got his hyperbaric chamber.
Way to bring it full circle. I like it.
Yeah. The other thing as well is that ridiculous touchdown for Curtis Samuel. That, like, I went through every emotion.
Even the positive ones.
Well, I'd hit positive emotions by the end of the game, but I was like,
oh, right.
If we lose because a referee's just speared a DB who was about to make a tackle, I'm not going to be happy about this at all.
I think it would have been deep. I think it would have been DPI anyway.
What?
I struggle to believe that you felt even excitement, which is what I call wistful excitement.
I went through everything. I went through, prognostication. I went through vexation. I was vexed, to be fair.
You seemed fairly vexed.
You were.
I was.
I couldn't
see the funny side. I couldn't see the funny side of it at all. I was just like,
it was pretty bloody funny.
It was fucking hilarious. And do you know my favourite thing is that you were then trying to bargain with me, saying that you wouldn't have been doing the exact same thing as what me and Max and Sam were doing to any of us.
I tell you what,
it would have been the exact same scenario. It did work on Sam, but you're absolutely right. Like, come on now. Everybody would have done the same thing. It was fucking hilarious.
I went back and looked at the again today, and I was just like, for starters, the referee has like a good 5 yards in which he's like staring down Bynum before he hits him. Like, have you seen it?
I did actually rewatch it because I was like, it can't have been that bad. I only saw like the ending of it because I sort of looked away for a second. He did actually genuinely. I don't know if anyone saw Robert Lewandowski's red card yesterday, but it was the exact same thing. He's just watching. Instead of looking at the ball, he's just watching the guy he's about to elbow in the face.
So all's well that ends well. The Vikings are 7-1. 5 games up in the division.
They've got a good chance of winning the division, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Although they do say that the season doesn't start until week 11, so it could all be for naught.
We may have the division by week 11. I think it's possible. And the other thing to say, I know we've mentioned it briefly, but TJ Hawkinson, 9 receptions on 9 targets for 70 yards. The first Vikings tight end to have 9 receptions since the 80s. So maybe they've got something
the
there.
1980s.
Yeah.
That's not that bad then.
Oh. That's crazy. First Viking since the 80s to have 9 receptions.
First tight end. Yeah.
It makes sense though. Like, if he's getting the crap being out of him, the tight end's naturally a bit of a comfort blanket there. You're not gonna go outside too often when you're getting slammed from the inside. What would you say, 20 times a game?
At least.
But it helps to have a tight end who's actually A, good, and B, available.
Yeah, I was about to say.
There's a brilliant still of this game if you haven't seen it, which is Kirk like with Payne and Allen like absolutely bearing down on him, and three O linemen that have whiffed on them, and then O'Neill and Darasaur like making perfect islands on the edge, but it doesn't matter at all. It's a poignant viewing. I'll see if I can send it to you.
The classic islands in the stream play, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this one before we move off, or are we gonna go head to the Meadowlands, where maybe the biggest upset of the whole week took place as the New York Football Jets, the Jeet, 20-17 winners over the Buffalo Bills. I wanna pinpoint one guy in particular, and that is Sauce Gardner, who is absolutely balling out. It's like Revis Island, and he's only in his rookie year. He's played 9 NFL games, and he's locked up some absolutely incredible wide receivers in man coverage. I think I saw something that he's only allowed something like 26 yards in man coverage to like
28 yards. Yeah,
28 yards against like Diggs, fucking
Can you
Deontay
stat,
Johnson,
I feel like
Jamar
every
Chase.
year we get a stat. Every year we get a different cornerback, and it's like the end of the season. It was Jair one year, it's Jalen Ramsey another year. Every year for the last 5 years, it's been like this receiver has only allowed one pass in man coverage as the nearest defender all season, and then it has the list of the receivers they've played. And there's guys who are always on that list of receivers. Allen
Stephon
Robinson
Diggs
is almost always on there.
Stephon Diggs is always on it. I love
Obviously not
Stephon
recently,
Diggs, but he gets
Alshon Jeffrey used to be on that list a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's T. Higgins. Like T. Higgins is the top of that list.
Yeah.
But
T.Y.
honestly,
Hilton.
that's the one. Yeah, another one.
I love T.Y. back in the day. Yeah, he's amazing. And the Jets don't play a lot of man, but they ask him to do a lot of man responsibilities, like in sort of like a split coverage.
Yeah,
and he's.
You can do that when you've got someone who can lock down one side of the field.
Yeah, but it's not even that he's locking it down. He's also spying the QB while he's doing it. And you're just like, how are you getting away with this? And he is.
Yeah, they've definitely done a lot of work on all forms of their defense. I think that we're all believers in the Jets, like front three especially. But
yeah,
CJ
Sheldon
Mosley
Rankins got hurt, didn't he?
He did. So we'll have to wait and see how bad that turns out to be. I haven't seen anything about it. But like CJ Mosley had a sack in this game and played great. Obviously Sauce Gardner. They're getting great games out of LaMarcus Joyner, Jordan Whitehead, Michael Carter II. And on the other side of the ball, they got a great game out of Michael Carter, the running back.
First.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Michael Carter, by the way, who has obviously been playing second fiddle to Breece Hall all year. What a game from him. To go up against this Bills defense and put up that sort of game, 12 carries, 76 yards and a touchdown. I know that it doesn't seem all that great, but like 6.3 yards a carry. It's pretty fucking special.
The signs were there. The signs were there in the Bills game against the Packers, that the Bills weren't quite... They were coming out of the bye and they weren't quite themselves. Obviously they're missing Matt Milano, but Aaron Jones really went off on the Bills. Did like nothing yesterday against... the weekend against the Lions. So I think that could be... Yeah, like I say, Matt Milano I think is returning to practice fairly soon. That will help do a world of good for the run defense, but that could be their Achilles heel.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Yeah,
Ed?
I'll go. I was just going to say, on the subject of Michael Carter, it's incredible to see how many of those went for first downs. I think it was 9 of those 12 rushes went for a first down.
Yeah. Just so clutch.
And on the subject of Matt Milano, yeah, I am praying that he's not there next week.
Well, Josh Allen might not be there next week because he, got a UCL, got a bit of an elbow bent, funny, getting hit while throwing. He didn't practice today. He's saying, we still believe, Josh Allen's saying, I still believe I'll play. But you've got Sean McDermott's in his press conference saying, we believe in Case Keenum. So that isn't something you would normally say if you were pretty confident that Josh Allen was going to be playing.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to play the Bills because I think they've in a bit of a dip in the season's a long season, and they're in a bit of a bad moment, as it were. So thankfully for us, we've got a reason to continue to not recognise the Vikings for another week.
Incredible cliche work, by the way, there, Max.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have hideous flashbacks to the first year we did this podcast. I think it might have actually been the year before.
No, it was the first year because I grilled you for it relentlessly until he turned out to be a fucking unbelievable player.
Yeah, the frisky Minnesota Vikings, and I think we were something like 5-2 at that point, and then rookie Josh Allen came and ran absolutely all over them, and then disappeared back into the wilderness for a year and a half.
Yeah, hurdled Kendricks as well. I seem to remember
it was
which.
Barr.
It was Barr.
They got him so bad.
Yeah.
They got him so bad that if you recall, that was the season when the Bills decided the Vikings were actually based in Wisconsin. In their pre-game graphic, they were flying to Minnesota. It was flying to play the Vikings. They were just going to Wisconsin. So not only that was when Josh Allen was at the prime of his being doubted. People were so low on him.
Yeah,
and he came out and did it, and it was the Bills came over, said, "You're in this state now."
Do you know the AFC East? I know that we mentioned about how the NFC South, everyone's got a losing record. The AFC East, everybody's got a positive record. There's 3 teams on 6 wins. This division is as wide open as it could have possibly been. The Bills, Jets, and Dolphins are literally neck and neck throughout the whole thing. They are what we
Bills
thought.
have played a game less, haven't they? They're 6-2.
6-2, and then the Jets and Dolphins are 6-3. Patriots are 5-4.
They're 0-2 in the division, though. They are 0-2 in the division.
They are. Yeah. And the Bills
have not played the Patriots
at home. Jets 4-0 on the road. It could be a sweep from the New York Football Jets.
I don't think the Dolphins are going to want to go. I know it's a cliche, a serious cliche, but when it comes to late December and January, and the weather starts kicking in, and the Dolphins have to go to, I don't know if they do have to go to New York.
They do
on New England.
On the 8th of January, the Dolphins play the Jets.
When do they play at the Patriots and the Bills?
Let me find out. So they play the Patriots on the 1st of January, the Packers on the 25th of December, and the Bills on the 18th of December.
We're playing on Christmas Day. Oh,
Oh wait, no. The Dolphins don't have to go to New York. They're at home. But
I thought you meant it's optional.
Yeah.
If you'd rather stay, lads, feel free. You can forfeit.
But they do travel on the road to Buffalo and New England in December and January. So
that'll be
Jesus Christ. Oh.
How lovely.
Oh.
You're definitely going to get the Dolphins are that kind of team every year, or a rookie on the Dolphins will go up to these road games. This is honestly the first time in my life I've ever seen snow.
Yeah.
That was the Jared Goff thing, wasn't it? We'd never even played a game outside California.
Yeah. Breathtaking. All right, let's go then to a game that we can sort of rattle through a little bit quickly, but also finished up 20-17, just like every one of these other ones, where the LA Chargers came out on top of a little entertaining but kind of weird game against the Atlanta Falcons. Couple moments that I sort of mainly wanted to highlight was Cordarrelle Patterson running over, was it Drew Tranquil?
It was Drew Tranquil.
Absolutely murdering him on the goal line.
Yeah.
He quite literally sat him down on the awful off-colour turf at Mercedes-Benz, whatever the hell it is. I think it's just Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
It looked like one of those games where the mascots play the children.
It really did. And then the other moment was Austin Eckler fumbling the ball sort of in the red zone. He'd gotten off a nice run. It was scooped up. I can't even remember who it was scooped up by. But then it fumbled again by the Falcons and recovered by the Chargers. And that ended up being the field goal margin that won the Chargers the game.
Dicker the kicker, putting it through the uprights.
Yeah. yeah, just a very weird moment. Very strange scenarios. Fun involvement for all.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Fun
Two-
involvement for all.
two teams who, despite being competitive in their relative divisions, didn't want to win this game.
Yeah.
I think that kind of sums up this season. A lot of teams don't really want to win, but the ones that do, they find a way, and the ones that don't, well, you can tell. I don't think neither of these teams are going anywhere in a hurry.
No.
God, the
Oh.
Falcons. If the Falcons had Geno Smith, they could be a serious team. But I don't know. Maybe they'll win the NFC South and get slapped in the first round of the playoffs.
They've got poor man's Jalen Hurts at quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Anything else from this one, or are we turning it quickly over to a game that has probably more news about what happened after it than what's happened within it, almost?
Potentially. I mean, I think it's worth just saying as well that, like, just for the love of God, please someone relieve Steve Lombardi of his duties and get a competent play caller in LA.
I agree. Yeah, they need one, because Justin Herbert is a premier talent. They have playmakers all over the shop on offense, and for some reason they can't use any of them consistently right now.
Well, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
They were
Keenan Allen's got a bit of a cloud over him. I don't know what his injury status is, but it doesn't sound good.
Well,
And obviously Herbert hasn't been the same.
It sounds like his hamstring didn't heal up the way that they were hoping it would have done over the bye week. So they were expecting to get him back. All of a sudden now, we don't even know if he'll play again this season. Yeah, that's troubling for the
Some
Chargers.
Michael Thomas stuff right there.
A little bit. Just a little bit. All right, moving on then. Weird to go on to a couple games in a row with teams with losing records. But we'll hit the Jacksonville Jaguars coming back from 17-0 down against the Las Vegas Raiders, who now fall to 2-6 after blowing it big time. Just 3 points. Didn't score a single point in the second half. The Jags came back to win it. The reason why I mentioned about all of the stuff after the game is that the Raiders are in a mess off the field by the looks of things, where Derek Carr had his comments at the presser where he said, "There's a lot I want to say, but I don't need to say it here," which that's
not good, is it? That is a very Derek Carr-ish thing to say as well.
A little bit. You can tell that he was just like, "I'm so sick of this coach. Every game we blow it."
We brought the beeper back.
I brought it back just for that little moment. Don't worry.
Give me flashbacks to the incident.
Yeah. Well, I think that this game was an incident for Derek Carr. He's furious by the looks of things. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't necessarily help the cause. He went into the tank as much as everyone else did.
For sure. Do you think that the Raiders get out of his deal at the end of this year?
Essentially.
Almost definitely.
Do you think the Raiders would want to trade for Aaron Rodgers? I think they might.
I think they might.
Oh, Devontae Adams is there. That'd be funny. Last dance.
But doesn't Rodgers have like $32 million guaranteed cap hit next year?
Got a lot of money. Well, when they sign the deal, we can talk about this in the next game.
We'll talk about it on the next game, but yeah. I see Derek Carr going to the Jets more and more every single week that goes by.
Right, my
he would get destroyed by the New York media.
He would get destroyed by the New York media, but then he would
cry in a press conference.
But he's the quintessential like Shanahan style quarterback for me, I think. If they just take the ball out of his hands and leave it in Breece Hall's, just let him throw like the occasional deep shot to Garrett Wilson, he'd love that. It's far better than what Zach Wilson's doing.
Well, you say that, but he was fine this last game, and Derek Carr wasn't. But
True.
yeah, I mean, there's been so many inquests into Josh McDaniel. It's just amazing that 2 coaches have been fired already, and neither of them were Josh McDaniel.
It is. It's weird to think that, like, I feel more certain of Josh McDaniels being a Tom Sula moment than, like, well, maybe not more certain because Urban Meyer was a disgrace off the field, but like even on field wise, if he'd have just not been an arse, I don't think he would have been a Tom Sula. Whereas McDaniel really,
I don't think it's that surprising because I think both Frank Reich and Matt Rule were basically on an absolute shoestring, holding on to their jobs at the end of last year. Like, it's surprising they didn't get fired at the end of last year. So when their team started out slow, whereas McDaniels, has been as bad as those two, but I guess you're obliged, aren't you? Even though I think Mark Davis, if there is anything that goes on in that head of his, is probably starting to regret that decision.
I went and checked out, like, I don't usually do this, but I just wanted to see what, like, the Raiders fans were saying after that game. I don't usually go out and seek other fan bases in the toilet, 'cause honestly, most of any sport Twitter is just complete garbage and everyone recycles the same thing. But it surprised me just how many people are anti-Mark Davis right now. I think he might have to make the switch just to save his own position at the moment, which is a weird thing to think. But also maybe not, because everything that Mark Davis has touched so far has been a disaster.
Who on God's green earth is the GM of the Raiders right now?
No idea.
It is that guy.
Oh
yeah.
I think that answers my question quite effectively.
I want to say his name is John. Honestly, no. The first name that popped into my head was Vin Ricketts, and I don't think it's that. But I think that from now on, the GM of the Raiders is Vin Ricketts.
Vin Ricketts.
Didn't they used to play for Bolton?
That was Sam Ricketts.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. Also, in other news that happened, I think yesterday, Jonathan Abram has been released from his Raiders contract, which now means that outside of Josh Jacobs and Clelin Farrell, who are both no longer going to be on the team as of next year, as it stands right now, because they declined their 5th-year options, there hasn't been a single first-round pick that the Raiders have drafted since 2017 on the team anymore, which is, damning.
That's the only thing that's keeping McDaniel in a job, is just that he's like, for God's sake, it was a mess when I got here.
Yeah. I mean, Farrell plays almost exclusively special teams if he plays before anything, like if he plays at all.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs is a good running back. I still plant my flag in that. He's been pretty decent this season, but
he's gotten back onto form. It's weird that they declined his 5th-year option before the season started, and then this is the year that he decided to start balling out like his rookie year again.
Well, I think it's the change in schemes really helped him.
Maybe, but
because it's not like the offensive line is better this year than it was last year.
Oh God, no.
No, but he was doing all of this, like, you know how Lev Bell used to be trying to be like, he was doing, basically he was Najeeing.
Yeah.
And now he's not. Now he's just remembered, oh yeah, I'm a power back, I'm just going to find a hole and go.
And it works. Weirdly, when you get a power back and he runs downhill, all of a sudden they work. Wow. You've managed to ruin. You've managed to ruin my day by remembering that Matt Canada's scheme exists. Thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. Josh Jacobs running downhill is far better for his career than Lev Bell patience running, which I think only a few backs can do effectively. One of them being Lev Bell. Should we move on?
Anything more to say about this game?
Nope.
Yeah.
I've got nothing.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to the my favourite funny game of the week, where another 2-6 and 3-6 team.
Take the piss out of you.
Another 2-6 and 3-6 team, as of right now, faced off where the Detroit Lions got just their second win of the season against Green Bay in Ford Field. And just a quick reminder that everybody, Aaron Rodgers is tied up until 2025 with no contracted out in his contract, and has $59 million of cap hit in that year alone. So
yeah, he's got a ridiculous cap hit next year, but they can get out of it after 2023 for relatively little pain.
Not according to Spot Track, they can't. They didn't.
Oh my god, I read
dead cap hit.
No, trust me, I just read a long ass article on ESPN about like pre-June 1st and post-June 1st exemptions.
Okay.
It was just so they can get out of it in 2023 for relatively little. I mean, it's still going to be like a 32 million across 2 years if they did in 2023. And I think when he signed that extension this summer, I don't think anyone would really have. Well, I don't think anyone saw the season going as badly as it has done. So I don't think at the time anyone would have begrudged them for signing 2 extra years, coming off back-to-back MVPs. Terrible game. This hilarious in many ways. But I was bummed out that the Packers sustained 9 injuries in this game, and almost all of them were to actual players who contribute something valuable. Obviously, Rashan Gary's done for the year, which sucks because he was basically their best player. Aaron Jones has got a high ankle sprain, which isn't ideal. Eric Stokes is going to be out for a while. They probably were running out of. They probably had to borrow some of the Lions' crutches and boots at the end of the game. Which sucks because, I mean, this loss basically ends the season, right? Like, they've got the Eagles, Cowboys, and Titans coming up. They're probably not going to win those, so you can be sitting at, what, 3-8, I guess? And then at that point, it's like, you might as well find out, put Jordan Love into the last 6 games, because you got to work out at some point, because you're going to have to decide in May if you want to actually pick up his extension. And I think I heard a point this week, which was, the worst case for the Packers isn't that Jordan Love is a bad player. The worst case is that he's actually a good player, but somewhere else. It hasn't really seemed that that's likely to happen, does it? But it's definitely a big picture season now. It's become a big picture season. And funnily enough, in this game, this was actually the best the Packers passing game has looked probably all season. They moved the ball up and down a lot. Like, they moved the ball much easier than they have in any of the last 4 defeats, but then they just someone decided to turn it over in the red zone 3 times.
I think
they had like 5 drives that got into the red zone and got about 3 points out of it.
I think it might have something to do with the fact that the Detroit Lions coming into this game did have the worst rated pass defense in the entire NFL. Like, that probably will contribute to moving the ball easily when you have reigning MVP Aaron Rodgers throwing it. It's just that he also threw 3 bad picks and also underthrew a wide open touchdown to Alan Lazard as well. He cost him. Yeah. It was all Aaron Rodgers. If he comes out and tries to blame anybody else again for like the 4th time this year now on the Pat McAfee show, then...
What do you mean the 4th time this year? There's been at least 12 or 13 times.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, ever since the games started actually happening, and I'll only count each week individually. But
that's how Aaron Rodgers has always been, like, since day one. And I think the fan base would be a lot more is going to be and are a lot more willing to turn against Aaron Rodgers than they were to turn against, like, Brett Favre. Like, if Aaron Rodgers said he was retiring, I don't think people would be out in the streets, like... And Jordan Love was stepping up. I don't think people will be out in the streets like, for God's sake, don't go. I think that guy was a bit of an odd guy.
It shows you how much of a bellend he is, that you can say that and it's true, and he's the 2-time reigning MVP.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. I don't know if there are many...
Isn't he a 3-time reigning MVP?
He's a 4-time MVP.
That was it.
He's a 2-time reigning...
Oh, like
double Reina. Yeah. Pepe Reina. Now that was a football player and a great fascist as well.
Until this game, the Detroit Lions were averaging 5 more points conceded per game than any other team.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for anybody that picked up the Packers defense, for example, instead of the Lions one.
Yeah. The
Ouch.
Packers defense didn't even play that badly.
No, I know, but it wasn't quite the Lions.
No, and the Lions in the last 4 games have scored 0-6, 27, but that was against the Dolphins, who I've got some concerns about their defense, and 15 points. So Dan Campbell is joining that list of people who might get sacked. And to be honest, this game, if there's a single silver lining from this game, it's that I'm so glad right now that the Packers didn't spend a second round pick on Chase Claypool, because they're gonna need it.
Yeah.
And also, I've got a question for you guys. Well, some people would say 8, but I think on this podcast we would say 7 veteran quarterbacks signed an extension this offseason. And they've all been a lot less effective this year. 7 have all been a lot less effective this year. Kyler, Rodgers, Brady, Stafford,
Carr,
and obviously Rodgers, and Wilson. Even Kirk Cousins, even though the Vikings are 7-1, Kirk Cousins as a quarterback, his efficiency is significantly down on what it was last year. I think he's turning it over almost twice as much as he did. His touchdown rate's down. He's even taking more sacks, but I don't think, of all of those, you would say Kirk Cousins has regressed the least. But it is a little odd that all 7 of them have regressed quite hard.
Our win's a QB stat, because if so, Kirk hasn't regressed. But I think that, yeah, it is weird, isn't it? It is weird. I'm trying not to draw any conclusions there, because I feel like there's extenuating circumstances for most of these guys.
I feel like as well, this is just a really odd year. This is such a weird... It's like, I bet next year, quite a lot of... Apart from Brady and Rodgers, who are both just completely cooked, I think, at this point, and probably, maybe, Russell Wilson, who I'm yet to see a good game out of.
Matt Stafford, I would say, might be.
Stafford could be, but even still, like...
Matt Ryan's obviously going to retire, probably.
But in terms of, like, the majority of these guys that are down on their efficiency, I think it's probably, if you look at it next year, they'll probably be fine again. It's just that if you look at this year in a vacuum, everybody looks bad, or apart from like a couple guys.
Yeah, that's what you've got to hope. That's what the Packers have really got to hope for, is that this is just a down year.
Yeah,
and maybe it is, because they've had down years in the past and come back strong. But like how Aaron
Rodgers says, a down year for me is a good year for everybody else, but a down year this year for Aaron Rodgers is a fucking turbulent shit year for an absolute bastard, man.
With that being said, he's probably still in the top half of quarterbacks. He's better than Russell Wilson.
That's not saying anything.
Hang your hat on that, please.
Yeah, can we please move on?
And the last point is, I want to make a personal point of vendetta against Ed, because Ed has got so much shard. Like, if Ed was like, I'm loving watching the Vikings, they're winning everything, you can't hold that against a man. But Ed is taking so much joy in the downfall of the Packers, and like, I take that personally, because like last year when the Packers beat the Vikings in that comedy primetime game with some scarecrow starting, and their best play was the center catching the ball and rumbling. I was so magnanimous. I make a point of being a very humble and magnanimous man. So he who laughed last,
that's always come through. Yeah.
He who laughed last longest.
I have been waiting to use that. Let's move on.
Tom, I'm sure you have the perfect sting to counter Max, and I think it's the captain himself.
What, you just knew that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If I may offer countenance to that point.
There you go. Can we please move on? Because Ed's got to leave. I want to get through.
Well, I can stay here all day.
I'm gonna have to bounce now, fellas. But it was lovely once again. Max, what can I say? You're a lovely young man, but you chose a terrible team to follow, and I will glee in their downfall until the end of time. And I will see you both next week.
Ouch. Wow. You get one
You
down
can say
year
what you
out
want,
of your
but at least
rivals,
my
and
team,
you run the
at least
ball
my
with
team
it.
don't have a big stupid horn they play after every. Shut up.
You'll be hearing it a lot. Alright. See you guys later.
Yeah, see you later. Oh, alright.
Second only to the of the Panthers.
or the fucking bird screech that the Falcons play. I hate all of them. I do, however. I hate their stadium noises. Love Max Saito's impressions of their stadium noises. Alright, I vote that we only do one more game.
I'm quite okay with that.
And then just do like the last couple as very, very brief bullet points and get the fuck out of here. And where better place to start than, or where better place to sort of finish off our actual game breakdowns than with the Seattle Seahawks, 6-3 on the season, 31-21 winners over the Arizona Cardinals, where Geno Smith has continued to not read his receipts. 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and another 100-plus yard game out of Kenneth Walker, who is balling right now. I know that everybody's going to look at Dameon Pierce as offensive rookie, but I'm just going to bang that drum. I'm going to bang it hard, because Kenneth Walker is my rookie of the year, offensively. If he keeps it up.
Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson, maybe give a nod to. This is such an... You know how, like, 2 weeks ago we were like, right, fair play to the Seahawks, they're doing well, but we don't think they're actually a good team.
Yes.
How many more weeks does this need to go on before we need to revise that again?
No,
like
I'm
2?
revising it now. I'm.
It's just... It feels sustainable, what they're doing.
Yeah. I legitimately...
It doesn't seem fluky. It doesn't seem like they've got a particularly, like, big schematic advantage being given to them by their coaches. You know, it's not like the Bears' offensive revival. It's not really like the Giants or the Vikings where they play every game on a knife's edge. They just feel like a fundamentally sound, good team. And Geno Smith is playing in a way that Russell Wilson never did. Russell Wilson has always in his career run around and chucked it downfield to Doug Baldwin or Tyler Lockett, or had to throw it away and take a 3 and out. Geno Smith's moving the ball, and he's hitting throws over the middle, which I think was killing Seahawks fans, that Russell Wilson never did that. He's like a field general at the moment. He's like the pocket operator. It's bizarre.
He is. Honestly, I'm just gonna accept my sad trombone moment there, as I picked the Seahawks as my number 1 overall pick. And in fairness, all of us are wrong.
We were all pretty wrong.
We were all pretty wrong, but I was the most wrongest with my Seahawks pick. And I think that it was mostly also because there's so many guys on this team that I didn't see being this effective at this point of their career. Be that because I thought that they'd get better as they got older, or because I thought that they were cooked 5 years ago when they were bouncing around the Jets and Giants. But Geno Smith, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, all of those guys are balling out right now. Kenneth Walker, I didn't expect to be as good as he has been. I thought, all right, Rashad Penny's gone down. They'll get some good performances out of Walker, but probably not like ridiculous. He's popping off. Honestly,
Chellan Nwosu has been really good as well.
He has. This whole team has either been like, it's just full of veterans that I didn't expect to be this good still, despite being, bouncing around at points in their career, or it's full of guys that are young and coming into the league and they're hungry. I think that Tariq Woolen might genuinely be my contender for Defensive Player of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year, other than Sauce Gardner balling the fuck out, basically being the new incarnation of Darrelle Revis. But Tariq Woolen's been great. And this is...
Yeah, he's a keeper.
It's baffling when you look back like 10 weeks ago, where this team, they'd lost Russell Wilson, they were having a quarterback controversy between Geno Smith and Drew Lock, and everybody was thinking, like, you guys didn't think that they'd be anywhere near as good as this. I definitely didn't. But, I mean, I thought that they'd be the worst team in the league. They've been unbelievable.
I don't even think they're like in their wildest dreams, their fans would have thought that they could play like this. But weirdly, it seems like they're just having a lot of fun, and they're just that team that in a league where a lot of things are looking quite difficult and a bit of a slog at the moment for a lot of teams. Yeah, the Seahawks are just having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they just enjoy proving everyone wrong more than any other team,
They've got
say.
some real Mighty Ducks energy about them, I'm not going to lie. And I know that sounds really weird for a team coached by Pete Carroll and who made the playoffs 2 years ago and whatever.
Bit of an odd guy.
Yeah, but like they do have a little bit of that sort of weird spark about them. And I know that they got Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and all that, but who thought that this would be the case? Crazy. And on the other side of things, the Arizona Cardinals are an absolute mess. I think that Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury are both...
Talking about people who got extensions over the summer who are flopping.
Oh, God. How did we allow them to carry on? How have
I
they
don't know
done
about you.
this?
I wasn't consulted on it personally.
Well, no,
and if they
neither,
had consulted me on it, I would have given them a different recommendation to what they ended up doing.
Yes, but even still, holy...
Bid well, or like bid poorly.
Oh, but they are, and this is meant to be a team that starts out hot and gets better, gets worse as the season progresses. They're already
They get
bad.
worse.
If they get worse,
They are. I don't know what's going to happen if they get worse.
Oh, it's crazy. I think I saw something that's like there are 7 teams right now that were in the playoffs last season that are on a losing record.
That's so crazy.
Which is mental. And then I think that there's 8 teams right now that didn't make the playoffs last season that are on a winning record right now. The whole league seems to have just completely flipped itself upside down by like 3 teams on who we thought they were. We can't even do this segment this year because we didn't think any of them would be who we thought they were.
But they are who we thought they were.
No, they fucking aren't. That's the problem.
They aren't who we thought they weren't.
Yeah, but yeah, what a silly week. Fire Cliff Kingsbury, as far as I'm concerned. It's been long overdue. And Steve Keim
I mean out of a
should not
cannon.
be. Yeah, and Steve Keim shouldn't be let off the hook either. This team, this roster, it's not.
Doesn't help.
It's
that
not
Call
great.
of Duty came out, does it?
It
doesn't
doesn't.
help that Modern Warfare 2 has hit the shelves 0-2 since then, but they probably would have gone 0-2 anyway. I think the thing with the Cardinals is that they really overperformed in the first half of last season, and they thought they'd stick to it. Like, they got so much goal line production out of James Conner. I don't think that was ever sustainable this year. I mean, he got hurt, obviously, but I don't think they could ever rely on him to move the ball like that. And I don't know, just what good players do they actually have? They have, in theory, Kyler Murray's meant to be a good player. Hopkins is obviously, I don't think I would argue with Hopkins being a good player. But other than that, it's just Drake in it. It's just Drake. And they need to redesign their uniforms because that white and red is so mediocre too.
It is.
They should stick with the black and red. That actually gives them some sauce. And they need it badly.
Yeah, they really do. Other news for the Cardinals is that 2-time All-Pro safety Buda Baker suffered a high ankle sprain and he's going to be missing... I think it seems like he'll only miss like 3 weeks, but in 3 weeks' time...
High ankle sprains stick with you, don't they?
They not only do they stick with you, but in 3 weeks' time, the Cardinals could be completely out of the playoff race. So, ouch. Banged big time by...
A lot of teams this year who are candidates to blow it up. A lot of teams this year who are candidates. And the funny thing is, all those teams that we mentioned who weren't in the playoffs who are going to be buying in a big way. So there could be a changing of the guard, or those teams might bounce back, or the teams who are buying might end up being like, we weren't actually as good as we thought we were.
Nice.
And now we've got Kenny Golladay on the books.
All right, we got 2 more games to just like quickly rattle through. We have the LA Rams, who are another team that, I mean, they are defending Super Bowl champions, and they're 3-5 right now. They are right on the cusp of being about to blow it all up, but they don't have any first round picks for like 2 more years because
Coming home to roost.
Yeah, it's finally all coming back. You know, do you remember in preseason when Matt Stafford's like shoulder was being reported?
Like a big story.
It was like,
and they were getting the baseball guys to look at it, weren't they?
Yeah. And we We had to think about
Glossed
it being
over
like,
it.
oh yeah, that could be a factor, but I don't think it'll be too bad, like too much. Oh boy, is it? I think that's been a thing this whole season. He hasn't been able
could
to
be,
throw the
but-
ball right once.
It's a bit of a.
I know it
It
feels
is a
like
bit
a
of a
cop out.
get out of jail free card, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of other issues other than that, but no, we said because I think I remember saying in a podcast like whenever they try and opt for the non-surgical recovery, it always to me is like, well, maybe you should just take the 6 weeks on the sideline and try and get it fixed up proper. And that offensive line I think is probably the biggest reason more than the shoulder issue. But defensively, they haven't really been the same either. I would say Donald and Ramsey, they play at a very high level normally, and it's hard to replicate that, but they're playing below it this year. And obviously, I don't remember hearing the name Bobby Wagner at all. He was meant to come in and really give him juice. I don't remember hearing his name once this year. And if they keep losing and Jalen Ramsey keeps beating the crap out of Taylor Rapp, then things are going to turn toxic.
yeah, absolutely.
Taylor Rapp's going to have 2 black eyes and no teeth left by the end of the year at this rate.
Yeah. And for the Buccaneers side, Tom Brady led another sort of one of those classic career-defining level game-winning drives after doing approximately fuck all for the rest of the game.
Someone had to win this game.
Somebody had to win it, and of course it was going to always be the guy that could put together a game-winning drive in his career.
It's
I know
weird how people don't talk about the Bucks. Remember in preseason, the Bucks offensive line being decimated by injury was a big story.
yeah.
But people haven't talked about it in season nearly as much as they talk about the Rams offensive line.
Nope. And I think that it's because I don't know. I think that it was just one of those things where we all kind of saw that would be a factor. Like the Rams one, I don't know. It feels more like it came out of left field a little bit, just how far they regressed. Because as soon as Andrew Whitworth went, it was like, oh no, the whole offensive line's collapsed. Whereas the Bucks, they got Ryan Jensen back for the year and then immediately lost him again. They haven't had Tristan Wirfs for large parts of this year. I don't know if he's healthy or not, but either way, it just doesn't. They were gonna be bad, like, or their offensive line was gonna be like really rough. They just can't move the ball. I'm kind of just. I mean, I've said it for the last like 4 weeks. I'm just done watching Buccaneers games. I actually, as soon as the Seahawks and Cardinals game finished, I just stopped watching NFL Red Zone. I just turned it off. I was like, no,
there was no point, was there? There was no point.
So I did miss the Tom Brady game-winning drive, but I caught back up with it on the highlights, and yeah,
I didn't even bother doing that.
Ouch. It was a good drive, to be fair. They actually did move the ball, but it took 58 minutes for them to finally be able to do so. So,
you know what? Another thing about the season, which I think makes it so sort of not great, is that last year there were a few teams who were bad, but like everyone was rooting for them, like the Lions.
Yeah.
This year, all teams who were bad,
most of
no
them,
one's rooting for them. They're either like teams who everyone hates because they've been big and now they're terrible, or they're just mediocre dreck.
Yeah. Or they've been bad for that long that now everybody's disappointed because they finally got a little bit of hope behind them, like the Lions and Jags, and they're still not great. All right, final game. It was just a complete blowout. It's why we haven't touched upon it. But we got to mention it anyway because Joe Mixon getting a 5 touchdown day is always worth at least a little mention because the Bengals absolutely pounded the Panthers 42-21. And
wasn't that close.
It really wasn't that close at all. It was 35-0 at one point, which is dreadful. PJ Walker got benched halfway through this game. He had a 0 passer rating, 2 picks, 3 completions, 9 yards, and then was taken out of the game, where Baker Mayfield moved the ball in a large amount of garbage time, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. I couldn't name you the starter for the Panthers next week because they have 3 guys and I don't trust any of them.
No, nothing more to add. Did you guys talk about the Colts game?
We didn't talk about the actual game itself because there wasn't much to actually say, but the actual news around it, we did talk about it. Do you have anything to sort of add or bring up that you want to mention? And I'll just sort of.
Did you talk about how first of all the Colts are clearly trying to lose on purpose?
Yes, yeah, we did.
And did you read that Jeff Saturday said that Jim Irsay called him during the game?
I didn't. Oh,
during the game he called him and was like, and I don't think it's ever good to make. I'm sure you talked about how Jim Irsay is becoming more rash. The last couple of years.
We actually spoke
it's not
about
good
how
to make
he's basically like his dad at this point.
Yeah. It's not good to make a decision while the game's still on, or even probably the evening of the game.
Nope.
So that's concerning for them.
You have to break it down for at least a couple of days, something like this, I think. Unless it's something that you've been sort of considering all year, and it's like I mean, on the 9th of January, we'll probably see quite a lot of coach firing going off around the league. But yeah, Frank Reich out. There wasn't anything else to this game. Matthew Judon had a great game for the Patriots, but other than that, it was. I mean, we didn't. Even, I was watching it on Red Zone. Or I say I was watching it. I was watching Red Zone. They just stopped going to this game after it was like 14-0. They literally didn't. Or 13-0, and then a fucking field goal. They literally didn't show anything from the second half apart from the pick six because it was just over. There just wasn't anything in it. The Colts are dreadful. And then,
oh man, this game used to be a big time game.
Yeah,
Colts Patriots.
Oh. All right. Let's. I think that we've exhausted all of our points. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Of course, it means a lot. And yeah, you can check us out throughout the week on @StiffLipPod on Twitter. You can also find Max at Deafira, Ed at NFL_Wilkins, and me at T_Chappers 1997. Oh, anyway,
who do you think has gained more from being on Hard Knocks, Jonathan Abrams or Dan Campbell?
Dan Campbell, because he got more pop, whereas Jonathan Abrams was cut from the team.
Oh, he got a lot of pop. Jonathan Abrams is going to last longer in the NFL in his position than Dan Campbell will.
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see.
Sorry, Dan.